In the automotive world, there's a lot of nostalgia surrounding cars from the past, where enthusiasts of all ages look back on models and generations that are no longer in production. Often the cars in the present day pale in comparison to their predecessors, whether it's because the manual transmission is no longer offered or engine sizes are shrinking. And to some degree, BMW purists find the cars of today to be inferior to those of the past. Rewinding back to New Year's Day of 2010, BMW was a much different brand than they are now. Technology hadn't taken over yet, crossovers weren't dominating the lineup, and the ultimate driving machine was still all about the driving experience. As car enthusiasts, we focused primarily on the sports cars brands offered to determine whether a generation or decade was good. In retrospect, the BMW E90 and E92 M3, along with the BMW E60 M5, were worthy successors to the E46 and E39 heading into 2010. The V8 and V10 for both cars were a perfect match, arguably making the M3 and M5 the best sounding in their respective segments, but possibly the best we've ever heard in BMW's history. When it comes to road presence, the E92 and E60 will always be classics, and whether they'll be coveted as collector cars or not, they've aged gracefully, and to this day are still attainable dream cars for enthusiasts. When it comes to performance, the M3 was powered by a 4-liter V8 engine, putting out 414 horsepower, and the M5 was gifted with the 5-liter V10, getting 500 horsepower, which is still impressive even for today's standards. But it wasn't all about straight-line speed, as you could get a manual transmission and feel fully connected to either car. While the E90 E92 M3 continued production for a few more years, 2010 was sadly the end of the road for the E60 M5, and as history has shown us, despite an incredible engine, this generation proved to be very unreliable in the long run, and the same could be said for the M6, which shared the same engine. Shifting gears to the crossover lineup, unlike in 2019, all you had to choose from was the X3, X5, and X6. At the time, the X3 was still being manufactured in Austria, and within the year, BMW would start production at their manufacturing facility in South Carolina, ushering in a new era of US-made BMWs. While we didn't know it then, the X5 and X6 would play a significant role and become the patriarchs of one of the fastest growing segments in the US by 2019. First arriving to showrooms in late 2009 as 2010 models, the X5M and X6M made their debuts, and with the V8 turbo under the hood putting out 555 horsepower, BMW proved that owning an SUV could be fun. For the X6, many journalists were often confused with the styling, and I think it would be fair to say that in the automotive industry in 2010, it was certainly an odd vehicle. However, BMW was far ahead of the curve, as by the end of the decade, crossover coupes have become almost mainstream by German brands. Fast forwarding 5 years to 2015, and BMW's lineup is beginning to fill out, with new additions like the X1, 2 Series, 4 Series, i3, and i8. It was at this point in BMW's recent history where the brand went away from their identity, prioritizing technology, fuel efficiency, the growing demand for crossovers, and exterior and interior styling above the driving experience. Compared to previous generations, there was something lacking with the F33 series, despite the interior being more high-tech. But the same could be said for other models in the lineup as well. There was no soul to these cars, and instead of being the ultimate driving machine, BMW became like everyone else by offering good-looking cookie-cutter cars that just didn't embody what this brand was all about. At the same time though, this decade overall can be branded as the mass production and consumption era of German cars, as Americans are buying BMWs, Audis, and Mercedes-Benz vehicles at higher volumes now than from 2000 to 2010. BMW, being aware of this, focused on sales and customer base growth, which to some degree may have alienated enthusiasts, but as we'll discuss later on, BMW found a way to find the perfect balance a few years later. Nevertheless, this growth forced the Germans to explore new markets and segments, and right around the time BMW was looking to expand its crossover lineup, they also added a 4 Series Grand Coupe, which became a more practical version of the 3 Series sedan, creating confusion with BMW's alphanumeric system, as even-numbered cars were designated as coupes. Amidst this confusion and expansion by the brand, there was a shining light, and that was the 2 Series and M2, which would arrive in 2016. If there's one car from this decade with a BMW badge that will either be a classic or collector's car, it's the M2. With a base price below $60,000, the option of pairing the 3-liter V6 with a manual transmission, and the fact that this car spoke directly to enthusiasts by providing a driving experience that rivaled BMWs of the past, is why it's been named the best M car you can purchase, at least according to Doug DeMuro, who is often very critical with many cars he reviews. Moving down the list, the F80 M3 and F82 M4 replace the outgoing E90 and E92 generation, and depending on who you talk to, some enthusiasts aren't fans. It's never been about performance or design, but rather the engine and exhaust note that the M3 and M4 make. There was certainly a lot of disappointment surrounding the discontinuation of the V8 engine being under the hood, and replacing it with a V6 that's more fuel efficient, but certainly lacks when it comes to sound. Enthusiasts, however, can still purchase an M3 or M4 with a manual transmission, and this particular generation has opened the door for owners to modify their cars more extensively. For the M5, we're already now on the 2nd generation this decade, and as we've seen the transition from the F10 to the F90, performance and luxury have become far more intertwined than in previous generations. Since the E60, there's been an increase of 100 horsepower, and for the competition, drivers can expect a 0 to 60 time as quick as 3.1 seconds. Sadly, with more power comes a bigger price tag. However, because the M5 has become more exclusive over the last few years, there's more of an appreciation for the sports sedan. With the 4.4-liter V8 engine, the tone and growl of this car appeals far more to enthusiasts, which is why the F10 has become a local favorite in the Boston area thanks to depreciation. As we come to a close for this decade, the last 2 years have brought even more changes, with new crossovers like the X2, X4, and the full-size X7. Unlike brands on the affordable side of the spectrum, like Ford and Chevy, who are moving away from the family sedans, BMW continues to show commitment towards cars, as they made significant improvements to the 3 Series, which I had the opportunity of experiencing on numerous occasions in 2019. With the G2330i receiving enhanced technology, it was the M340i that really caught my attention due to its performance. Now, as I said back in February, what I really love about BMW right now is that everything is about the driver and the driving experience. I had talked to a 340i owner last time back in February, and he was waiting for the 340i to arrive. And I have to be brutally honest that this is a completely different car than last generation. You have 62 more horses under the hood, and to me, I think it's just a lot more of an exciting car to drive. Let's give this car some gas. As I mentioned earlier in this video, BMW is beginning to balance mass production while still focusing on the driver, which couldn't be said with the previous generation. These characteristics are beginning to be shared among all vehicles in the BMW lineup, as the ultimate driving machine has returned with a vengeance. This year also brought an end to the 6 Series, being replaced by the impressive 8 Series that takes luxury, comfort, and performance to a whole different level. As the flagship for the brand, the 8 Series can now be purchased as a 4-door Grand Coupe, and as the newest addition to the M Performance line, the M8 is without a doubt one of the most amazing cars we've seen from BMW in almost 10 years. That is insane.
Yeah.
That is absolutely insane. The burbles are so deep too.
Yeah.
Deeper than any other BMW.
It's not like a pop or a crack. It's a like.
And lastly, you can't round out the decade without mentioning the Z4, a car that shares platforms and many aspects with the new Mark V Toyota Supra that was met with a lot of criticism from Supra enthusiasts. While German brands have shied away from two-seater convertibles, the Z4 continues to be in production, and likely will be through the first half of next decade. But looking at where the automotive market is heading, the future for this model is uncertain. With the crossover lineup completed for the time being, ahead for BMW next decade is likely the electrification of cars and SUVs alike, as the new i4 is expected to arrive sometime around 2021. A new compact car is right around the corner, the all-new 2 Series Grand Coupe, which should be arriving sometime early to mid next year. However, if you're a car enthusiast, you're likely waiting for the new M3 and M4, which to this day hasn't been fully unveiled yet. One thing is for sure though, BMW has come a long way over the last 10 years. The automotive industry has changed, and the brand had to navigate through the ups and downs to reach the point where enthusiasts are once again embracing the models they're producing with open arms. As we look forward to 2020 and beyond, who knows what lies ahead? With autonomous self-driving technology in development, along with hybrid and electric technology becoming more mainstream, we may look back on this decade as being the glory days. However, just like we've seen with this 10-year journey, there's hope that BMW will continue to produce fun cars we all enjoy. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and leave a comment below and let me know if you want to see more Decade In review videos for other brands. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys next time.